Hey everyone, and welcome back to the network, where today you can probably tell by the title, but we are taking a look at the brand new Virtual Boy attachment for the Nintendo Switch Online service. Now, when Nintendo actually announced this thing, I was super excited for it because, you know, me being a collector of the retro games, if you will, really thought that the Virtual Boy was one of those interesting systems, but because it only had like 20 games, and at the time when I started retro collecting, it was like a $200 thing, whereas like an NES was 60 bucks. I never really got one, and so when it was announced that Nintendo Switch Online was going to, you know, add Virtual Boy titles, and then Nintendo was going to release both this, you know, plastic remake of the Virtual Boy and the little cardboard one, I was like, oh, okay, this is probably my chance to actually experience the Virtual Boy. And I have played a real one at a gaming convention, so I do know what a real one should feel like. So we should have a good time comparing the real one to this new one that Nintendo's released for the Switch. So without any further introduction, let's head over to the table and take a look at what's included in the box. Alright, so here we have the front face of the box, where we can see that it does say Nintendo Switch Online, and then it says Virtual Boy for Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch. So that is the cool thing about this device, or this shell, is it? I mean, I don't really know what is in this thing to know what to call it, because it's a replica, but then it's also not really a console. The console is the Switch, because it slots inside of this thing. But yeah, it's cool that regardless, this thing works for both the Switch 2 and the original Switch. So if you don't have a Switch 2, you can still make use of this Virtual Boy attachment, versus with like the GameCube Switch Online controller that only works with the Switch 2 and not the original Switch. But turning the box around, we just have like red on this side, and then on the back we do have all of the instructions, so we'll just kind of center that for you guys if you want to pause and then read through all that. It does have quite a lengthy bit of instructions for how to set this thing up, and it also does come with two different attachment brackets, one for the Switch 2 and one for the original Switch. So we'll probably just keep the Switch 2 one on there, but you know, we'll kind of show you the area where you would do the swap for the Switch or the original Switch when we get to that part. But yeah, with that pretty much out of the way, we'll go ahead and open this thing up. So we do have this nice little pull tab here on the back, so we'll just slide that out. There we go. We'll fold it up. We'll try to be gingerly with the box in case we want to put it back in there at some point. But yeah, we do have the Virtual Boy sort of attachment itself. Okay, I guess these things just kind of slide out. That's fun. And here we go. Ooh, wow, that is really soft. Okay. All right, so here's the Virtual Boy piece, and then somewhere in here, it looks like right underneath is the stand. And then we have, ooh, what is that? There's another thing right here. Oh, this must be the other attachment bracket. So we have that, and then a little usage manual or something or other. So we'll just go ahead and throw that back in there, along with all this extra cardboard that we don't need right now. All right, so right off the bat, I can see why this one was like more expensive than the what do you call it, like the cardboard version that Nintendo also was releasing, because holy crap, this thing's got like some quality to it. Like this little eye cover is like a plush sort of memory foam. I'd almost say like, you know, like ski goggles, how they have that little padding on there. That's pretty much what this is. And then the stand is actual metal. So, you know, this stand is probably never going to break on you, because this is, these are all metal rods and very little plastic. It does feel high quality, as with most of Nintendo's stuff when they do release it like this, which is really nice to see. So we'll just pull off all these little pieces of, I don't know, like corner protecting pieces of styrofoam. But yeah, there we go. We have the Virtual Boy unit. It does look pretty similar to its original release. I don't know if any of these actually do anything, because the instructions did not say that these do things, and it does not look like it does. Okay, so if we look through the front of that, through these lenses, you can see they're kind of red. They kind of look funny when you're looking at it with the ring light in there. I don't know if that's actually supposed to be in there or not. And then down on the bottom, we do have, this is the spot where you would put your bracket in. So it comes pre-installed with the Nintendo Switch 2 bracket. If you want to swap it over to the one for the Nintendo Switch, you'd simply undo these 4 screws here, and then you could just screw the other one in. It does say to be careful and try not to strip the screws because that would be bad. Taking a closer look at this thing, we do also have a dummy volume wheel right down there, which is a nod to the original. You got a false headphone jack, and then you got an external and a controller port thing, which is actually super freaking funny. I really do like the lengths that Nintendo goes to when it comes to these sort of devices like this, but let's try popping it onto its stand. So if we extend the legs out, okay, so pretty much how this connects is this little nubbin down here has some ridges on it, and that just kind of clicks into the stand. So there we go, just like that. And bada bing, bada boom, we have ourselves a Virtual Boy. That is freaking hilarious. And then right here at the front, you have like this adjustment knob, so you can loosen it, and then you can change the sort of angle or the viewing angle that the Virtual Boy has. All right, so now that we have the Virtual Boy like set up in its sort of configuration, you may wonder, how do you actually get the Switch in this thing? And to be quite honest, it is not the most elegant thing in the world. All you have to do is pop this top off here, and then there is a little slot on the inside, if you can see. Ouch. There's this little slot right here on the inside, and that's where you'll just rest your Switch. So I do have my Switch 2 here, and what you're supposed to do is detach the Joy-Cons from it, and then you can slot it in the little fun slot back there. Ooh, there we go. Okay, all right. And then you can go ahead and close the top off, and you have your Switch fully inserted, ready to play little Virtual Boy games. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and do that again, but at a different angle so that you can see like down on the bottom, like kind of how the Switch seats in this thing and why it's not sticking out of the top. Okay, so at this angle, you can kind of see that when the Switch gets inserted down here, it kind of slots open or like hinges open. So you can see the little hinges stick out right here on the side, and then that's how the Switch can slide down and sit in this little what do you call it, like the little addition, little bracket thing or whatever. Now the funny thing about this is this little unit was shipped out well before the Switch Online app is actually live for the Virtual Boy, so I can't test it at this very moment, but rest assured you will see this tested in this video. Unfortunately, I just have to wait 24 hours until the app goes live. However, for you guys, it will be right now. And it is officially a new day. We do have the Virtual Boy app here. It is officially released now at this point, so we can go ahead and launch that up and see what we got going on. Okay, so we do get the nice little Virtual Boy thing, and then it says this software requires a dedicated accessory, being either this Virtual Boy stand or anything else. Oh no, we gotta hit next. There we go. The instructions should be read by an adult, yada yada yada. And if the game screen is difficult to see, press and hold R to do the IPD. Okay, interesting. So you can actually change the visual about that. I was wondering how that would work inside of this little device, because there isn't like a physical switch or anything that you can use to adjust that in case the image is blurry. If you've never used VR before, pretty much the IPD is the distance between your two irises, or like your pupils, and that'll kind of dictate how you should stretch things apart. But that's cool that this is built into the software, so that is neat. Let's go ahead and we'll hit the button. Okay, so once you set it in the console, look through it and press A. Okay, cool. So we will detach the Joy-Cons again and pop open our little Virtual Boy stand, just like that. We'll slide the Switch 2 in there, and we'll lock her up. All right, we'll see if we can't get this to view through the camera. Okay, kinda. The camera kinda can see what's in there. Okay, so as you can kinda see in here, we do have visual. This is looking in one of the eyes. If we slide over, you can see the other eye there. Okay, the other eye's not working as good. It's better focused on this one. Come on, camera. Come on, focus in the lens. So I'm gonna go ahead, work through the initial setup, get it all comfortable for my eyes, and then we'll actually play some games. All right, so I am through the initial setup, and we are to the game selection on the Virtual Boy. I did set my DPI, or IDP, my the distance between my eyes, that thing we were talking about just a little moment ago. I set that. Apparently I need to be at the max in -20, so that's cool. But let's go ahead and take a look at the game selection through this thing and kind of get my initial thoughts on it. Now, it will be kind of difficult to, display it for you guys because pretty much everything is kind of contained within the Switch. I'll try to show it through the camera, put it up to one of the eyes, but the mileage of that may vary. But however, taking a look through the Virtual Boy for the initial time, I do have to say this is pretty neat because it does look like, most of the other Nintendo Switch Online sort of stuff where you just have the, like the games laid out as little tiles. It appears that we have 7 games to start. We have Virtual Tetris, Galactic Pinball, Golf, Teleroboxer, Red Alarm, something in Japanese, and then Wario Land. So that's pretty neat. Let's try, I guess, Wario Land. Now, the game that I played on Virtual Boy was, I don't think it was Tetris. It kind of was like Space Invaders. If I don't remember what it's called, but it was similar in concept to, you were a ship on the bottom and you were just kind of going left and right and shooting stuff. So I don't think that game's on here, but we'll give another one a go just to see how this is. Now, I do have to say this does look pretty similar to the actual Virtual Boy that I played, which is neat, like down to the fact that you can see the dot matrix display. And that feature seems to be something that's baked into the lenses of this like accessory and not necessarily just the online app, because if you look through the lenses with just the normal Switch in there and not anything on there, you can still see the like the dot matrix sort of effect. So they really kind of nailed the look of the Virtual Boy, which is pretty cool. And then on the bottom of the screen, which with most of the Nintendo Switch Online stuff, you do have the little button to do the suspend menu. And as it said when we first started, if you want to change the IDP, you just hold down the right thumbstick and then you can adjust it until things are nice and clear for you, which is super convenient. I've never played Wario Land or the Virtual Boy Wario Land, so I'm not really sure what to expect here, but yeah. Okay. I do have to say the effect is working really well. Oh, and I managed to hit something, and that was not good for my health. And then I died. All right, well, I think I didn't even last 5 seconds there, but I mean, first impressions, this is pretty accurate to what I experienced on a real Virtual Boy, like down to the fact that it doesn't fill the whole screen. It's pretty much like you have this 3D effect, like a sense of depth. If you ever use like a 3D television, it's kind of similar to that in the sense where you look through here and stuff can either come closer to you or be further away. Okay, so I figured you guys may be kind of curious to see how things look when you are trying to... Okay, now this is actually pretty interesting because these are all showing in like full color, whereas when you're actually playing the games through the Virtual Boy, these screens are in that sort of digitized red look that some of the games are. Like if we go into, Solaris or whatever this game is, this is what it looks like. Everything looks like through the Virtual Boy. So that does prove that there is some sort of filter on those lenses in the physical headset that makes it look like this, or just furthers the look with like the dot matrix sort of dealio. So that is neat to see. That is very, very neat to see. All right, I gotta say I'm actually really impressed with this thing and the way that it functions, albeit this is, pretty rudimentary technology. This technology existed for a while, the way to do 3D in this sense, but it actually does it really well and kind of emulates the sort of Virtual Boy experience better than I thought it would. So I'll go ahead and throw some B-roll up real quick of some of the other games on here, and then we'll just head back into the other room and kind of wrap up our final thoughts on this little Virtual Boy accessory. Okay, so overall, what do I think of the Nintendo Switch Online Virtual Boy sort of accessory along with the companion app? And honestly, I gotta say, that works a lot better than I thought it would. Personally, I was kind of doubting, the ability to capture VR with an accessory, and then you just kind of slot the Switch into it, and that's how you're supposed to emulate the Virtual Boy. Now, definitely the fact that if you get the version where it is, like the one that I'm showcasing versus the cardboard, it does feel a little more authentic to an actual Virtual Boy. However, like the technology that is in there is similar to those VR goggles that you could get for your phone, where it just shows the two screens like stereoscopic 3D. In terms of that, it's not the most, high-tech solution, but it definitely gets the point across. It does feel like you're playing Virtual Boy, at least with what I experienced, where it's not full VR, where it'd be the full, everything like if you're playing VR today, where you're fully immersed in the world. It's pretty much just a screen that has depth similar to a 3D television. Now, there's not a whole lot of downsides to it. I do like how you can adjust the IDP within the app so that, your image is a little sharper. And back in the day, the whole issue with the Virtual Boy is a lot of people would get headaches playing the games because, most likely it wasn't set properly on their headsets and the images are blurry, and when they're that close to your eye, they can cause migraines and stuff like that. So to be able to adjust that within the app is a nice feature. The biggest downside, I think, for this headset is the fact that, it's tied to the Nintendo Switch Online. So not only do you need to have a subscription or an active subscription in order to even buy that thing, you also are kind of limited in the game selection that you have with a lot of the Nintendo Switch Online. They like to drip feed stuff over the course of years, and the Virtual Boy is a console that had a very small library. I think there was only like 13 or 15 games, something like that, in North America. So, we'll probably see the entire Virtual Boy library within about 5 years, if I'm being entirely honest. But, with the selection of 7 games to start off with, that's pretty good. That's most of the library right there, let's be honest. So if you are a fan of the Virtual Boy and you don't really feel like tracking down an original one and then trying to get the games for it, which I know that some of the Virtual Boy games are almost as expensive as the Virtual Boy itself, this is definitely an alternative that would be viable for you if you want to just experience it, because again, you don't need to get the premium version like the one showcased in this video. They do have a cheaper version that's pretty much just made out of cardboard, and I think you actually keep the Joy-Cons attached to the Switch while you have it in there, because you just kind of like hold it up to your face, and dang, now that I'm saying that out loud, you really would look like a nerd if you were out in public doing that with your little Virtual Boy piece of cardboard walking around trying to play games. But ultimately, should you get one of these things, I think if you are interested in the Virtual Boy and kind of like the history of it, and you want to kind of try it out for yourself, this is a good alternative to, tracking down original hardware. I'm always a proprietor of getting original hardware because I think that's just the most authentic way for you to experience things. I wish that Nintendo had the option with this premium version to get a Virtual Boy controller to use with the Switch 2 instead of just using the Joy-Cons. Now, the Joy-Cons are pretty similar to a sort of Virtual Boy controller in concept, where it's like, you have 2 D-pads, and I believe there was like 2 buttons and a couple shoulder buttons on an actual Virtual Boy controller. A Joy-Con has more buttons, but them being slot into like the little Joy-Con holder can kind of feel sort of similar to it. But again, I wish they just released one, with this, especially for $100 getting this, premium version. That's about a $70 markup from the cardboard. They could have made some sort of Bluetooth controller that mimicked the Virtual Boy thing, but maybe this is just a test. Maybe they're just gonna see, do a lot of people want to play it? Because if they do, then maybe they could release one down the line. But I would say that is my biggest gripe, that and the fact that it is Nintendo Switch Online, so you have to have an active subscription to even use the thing. So if you ever feel like canceling it, well, now that just becomes a nice little desk ornament. But if you're into Virtual Boy, if you want to get into Virtual Boy and you're fine with the Switch Online sort of thing as a whole, I definitely recommend picking up one of these 2 things to play, because it is kind of fun and it's neat how Nintendo can emulate this sort of vibe, because when I first saw that get announced, I was like, holy crap, that is really freaking cool. I cannot believe they are making a Virtual Boy for the Switch. So with that, that's pretty much all I have to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, remember to drop a like and make that subscribe button glow so that you don't miss any future content. And if you're planning on picking out one of these up, are you gonna go Team Cardboard or Team Replica? Because, I mean, Cardboard is cheaper. It gets the point across. You can play it, but man, do I like my replicas. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.